So you mentioned coming to Texas. Now, Rico, you're originally from Texas. Jake, you're from the Michigan, correct?
I am, yes, sir.
And
America's
so
high five.
Rico is from, what did you say?
America's high five.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I would call it the oven mitt, but, that's
There you
just
go.
me.
Sure, that works.
But Rico, you're originally from San Antonio, Texas, and found yourself up in Michigan, and that's how y'all met, right?
Yeah, Reader's Digest version, man. Just moved to Michigan to finish school up there. Met a girl, got married, and ended up staying there, and that's when I put an ad out literally in Craigslist. I mean, there's a lot missing, but we won't go over that. Fiddle player looking for work, and our first drummer, or I guess original drummer, Dan Courier, who retired last year, right? He retired after a long career. Uh, he found me and was like, "Hey, the city we lived in was called Lapeer, Michigan at the time.
You're not right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. That's where it's at. And population maybe I don't know 10,000 people or something like that, 15,000. Small city. And so he's like, man, like you're either new to the city or you suck and you can't get any work.
Yeah.
Like fiddle players are pretty rare up here, man. Like, what are you?
You're in Michigan, bro. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you like? Did you have to like tell people up there or define what a fiddle was first of all? Like, because I'm from Massachusetts. If I start dropping words like fiddle up there, they're not gonna catch on
Like,
whatsoever, like at
would
all.
you just call me? Would you call me?
Exactly. That's what they
I
do
would
when
not
they're
let you
messing
fiddle
around
me.
with their pills or something. They're fiddling with their pills.
You're fiddling around with the stuff,
That's
bro.
right. So I'm curious, as young guys, I'm talking real young now. What first of all, what were your first like musical experiences like? Your inspirations. I'm curious how this works. A Texas boy, Michigan boy, and it works so well. So take us back to your younger days musically.
Go, bro.
Oh man. Well, my father, he's a vocalist. He was, and just a phenomenal talent. But I'm in front. I've heard stories anyway that as early as I could talk. I'd be crouched by the stereo listening to music with him. But yeah, I grew up on classic country, and then I got into metal, and then I was in metal for quite a while. Then I came back to country, and here I am.
I love
Here I
that
am.
because I can definitely see that in your chops, man. I was going to ask him about metal because I can see it, I can hear it from
Uh,
you. What about
yeah,
you,
Only
Rico?
country guitar player in Texas that sweeps, baby.
well, guys,
Absolutely, yeah. What about your early days, Rico?
I was kind of sheltered as a kid, man. I used to get teased a lot from the boys when we first started, just about my lack of knowledge of actual like music, when it comes to country rock or anything like that. Just because my parents, if it was either church music, mariachi music, or classical music, and I had a CD one time, Incubus CD. I remember I got from my uncle, and I loved it. And I would play it, and I'd go shoot hoops outside, And one time I was playing it when my parents were gone, and my dad came home and he heard me listening to the Devil's Incubus music, and he broke my CD. He picked it up in broad daylight and broke my CD. But my heavily influence was, like I said, I grew up pretty sheltered, and which I'm not ashamed of. I think that it saved me from a lot of things that my family struggles with personally on the other side of things, and I got to grow up in a cool environment with my family, and we did mariachi. A lot of it was the Hispanic culture of Texas, the San Antonio culture.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and my grandpa were founders in San Antonio, or I should say, my great grandfather, him and his father had the very first mariachi in the area called Mariachi Perla de Jalisco, and that got passed down to generations. To where my dad, my uncle, who sadly passed, was in it. My cousins that are in Houston. I mean, they spread all over Texas, and so that was a huge part of my growing up was the mariachi music, and then when I got to middle school, I started playing fiddle when I was younger. I took piano lessons first, but I got into classical music and orchestra, and that's when I just like, you know what, I'm gonna go be a classical violinist, and I ended up going and playing. Um, I played in Sacramento.
Wow.
Did some subbing in Detroit.
All over Europe.
Yeah, it took me all over Europe and man and Russia. Oh yeah, that side of the world. And so I finally found. Honestly, like I said, I moved back home towards I guess my 20s, and that's when the Red Dirt scene was kind of taking off. Like Pat Green and Randy Rogers are just starting. Stoney and all these boys are just coming through. Cody Canada, Cross Canadian Ragweed.
So we're talking early 2000s here, then, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is that I still wasn't listening to these boys. That was the thing. Like they were still coming up, but I was still into the classical, veils over my head. Until the Hold My Beer Volume 1 album came out with Randy Rogers and Wade Bowen.
Yeah.
And I wore that out on Spotify, and that's what kind of got me in love with country. And then after that, I was like, I'm gonna turn this thing. I went to the store and bought some strings instead of strings.
Yep.